10 years ago today, my symptoms of systemic scleroderma became very noticeable. I didn't know what I had at that point. I was having some weird things going on. I had some Raynaud's issues, but I didn't even that I didn't know. I just thought it was weird. Some, my fingers or toes would get cold, and I'd have to warm them up. Uh, but 10 years ago today, it was so pronounced. It was difficult for me to walk down a flight of stairs. I felt like I was being stabbed in the knees with every step. Normally, I would do push ups. I felt like I was being stabbed in the shoulders. Uh, there were so many things. My fingers were swollen. A lot of things were happening, and I knew something was going on. Um, and eventually, after actually I got diagnosed fairly quickly, but part of that was I wrote down all my symptoms. I wrote down everything that was going on and things that seemed to be totally unrelated. I wrote down. I brought that in for my medical appointment, handed it to them. Hey, here's what I'm dealing with, because a lot of times you can say stuff, they'll miss stuff. So I wrote it down, printed it out, gave a copy to them. And the symptoms were very much classic systemic scleroderma symptoms. Other than I did not have pronounced skin involvement. I did have some, but it was not as significant. Anyway, they did labs, and the antibodies that ended up with were some of the worst. The SCL70, which usually are known for bad short life expectancy, lung involvement, pulmonary hypertension, not so much for kidney problems, but basically I was told I had a 50% chance I would not make it 5 years. And even then, what kind of shape I would be in if I did survive 5 years did not look to be good. I was on some medications, and there were a lot of things that I started looking at. And what I started really focusing on is stress management, because I would realize that things would get so much worse as soon as I got under stress. And mind you, I'm very good at handling stress. I always was very good at handling stress, but I realized I had to take it to a very different level and had to become very mindful of what was going on with my body. So that's one of the most important things. And a lot of times, anybody getting a diagnosis, whether it be systemic scleroderma, systemic sclerosis, which that's the other name for it, or a cancer diagnosis, or anything else, any other autoimmune disease, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and to start researching, and you get overwhelmed that way. But stress is the enemy. That's one of the worst things. In my case, I was under a tremendous amount of stress, which is what brought on, at least I believe, was what triggered my autoimmune response, where basically my body started attacking itself. And so when I look back and I think, okay, I was told I had a 50% chance I wouldn't make it 5 years. And here I am, 10 years later. I ran 10 miles yesterday, and guess what? I am not dead yet. And I plan on living a lot longer. That's my goal. I plan on living a good life. But there are so many things that I think for everybody to understand that, first of all, it is not a death sentence. You need to slow everything down, take some deep breaths, because first of all, a lot of the statistics out there on scleroderma, systemic scleroderma, is that basically a lot of statistics are old. They don't take into account a lot of the new medications that have been developed in recent years. Things that you need to make sure happen if you've been diagnosed with systemic scleroderma. You want to make sure that you get a pulmonary function test to get baseline. You want to get an echocardiogram to check out your heart functioning. And you also want to monitor your blood pressure to make sure that you're not having any spikes in your blood pressure, because those are all symptoms that, if you have systemic scleroderma, can be a sign of problems. Uh, and so these are things that you need to do on a regular basis, particularly if you've been recently diagnosed. So, for instance, getting the echocardiogram and pulmonary function tests done, you probably want to get those done twice a year, particularly the first few years, but you always want to get one once a year at least. The other thing, I believe, is staying physically active, because a large component of the disease is that you'll have arthritis. And so for me, one of the things I've realized is that the more I move, the better my problems with arthritis are. So I exercise a lot. I walk a lot. I get 10,000 steps a day. And I do that very consistently. I run, and part of that is so that I can keep track of my lungs, because if I start having problems, I will look at things. I'll call my rheumatologist, say, hey, get me checked out, see what's going on. And I've only had that happen a couple times, over the last 10 years. But stress management, staying active, very, very important. Do not be afraid of taking medications. Though everything I'm taking right now is over the counter. I have been on medications in the past. I would not be against going on medications in the future. It's another tool to keep symptoms at bay. The other thing that's very important, whether you're newly diagnosed or you've had the disease for a while, to keep in mind is that there is no minimum safe distance. You can have this disease for 20, 30 years, but don't let your guard down, because the disease can hit your lungs. You can be doing fine for 15 years and suddenly it's hitting your lungs, or whatever it may be. Symptoms may change. And there were years back, doctors used to say, well, if you make it past 5 years, that's what you've got. And that's not really the case. Because years and years ago, people didn't live that long with the disease because there weren't so many treatment options. So take deep breaths, try not to get overwhelmed, try not to research too much, because that's also overwhelming. If you can, get to a scleroderma treatment center to get the best possible treatment that you can for scleroderma, because they are very aware, and you can go to National Scleroderma Foundation's website. They've got a lot of information on that. And then there's the Scleroderma Research Foundation. Those are the two big organizations in the United States that provide support. One really focuses on research. The other focuses on patient support. And so the National Scleroderma Foundation, they have a list of support groups. And I currently facilitate a newly diagnosed support group that's virtual. So things that you can look at so you don't feel quite as overwhelmed. Anyway, that's just a quick overview. Again, if you've just been diagnosed or you've had it for a while, take some deep breaths. Don't get too overwhelmed yet. You will get through this. I believe that. And I believe being positive is an important thing. If you have people who are positive and supportive around you, great. And just, to me, I've got faith. I pray to God and I thank Him for each day. But just, again, take a deep breath. Don't get overwhelmed. I know for me, I'm not dead yet, and I plan on continuing to go on for quite some time. So have a great day, great night, and you'll get through this.